Hello, everybody. My name is Bruce Montgomery, and this is my colleague, Tracy Priest.
Good morning, everybody.
And we're with The Road to Retail. On our podcast, Tracy and I hope to offer tips, insights, ideas, and examples of how small, emerging, and challenger CPG brands can build their business, consumer packaged goods. Although today we have a treat, it's a little different. Everything from determining if you're ready to grow, where to start, how to prove it online, how to go about securing distribution at a national retailer if that's important to you, driving your business through to the end consumer, and how to go about finding an investor if you're ready for that. The bottom line is we would love to help you be successful by highlighting the many important aspects of this journey to establishing and growing your brand. Tracy and I have been doing this a long time. We've made a lot of mistakes, but we've done a few good things too. So if we can smooth out the journey for you, we'd love to. Tracy?
Absolutely. So when Bruce says a long time, he means 30 plus years in commercial operations, specifically in consumer packaged goods. What do we mean by that? So we mean sales, marketing, trade marketing, divestitures, managing brokers, managing agencies, managing distributors, also product development. So we've done a lot of things over our career and have a lot of experience. And that's really why we created the Road to Retail, is to share that experience with you. And then also from time to time, we have friends and colleagues from our past and in the industry that we invite on the show to share with our audience what their experiences has been. And we feel like you can learn from that as well. So today we have some esteemed colleagues. And Bruce, you want to tell everybody about who we have on today?
Absolutely. Today, we'd like to welcome Brian Packard and Dan Touhey to the show. They're with a really cool emerging firm called Yard Rink. Brian is the CEO and co-founder, and Dan Touhey is the head of business development. And these guys, as they're going to tell you in incredibly articulate detail, are a leader in backyard hockey rinks. And I don't know who lives in a cold city that doesn't need a backyard hockey rink, but we're going to learn a lot more about it today. Brian and Dan, welcome to the show. And why don't you guys give a little more background on how you got to where you are today? What's been your journey?
Yeah, thanks for having us, Tracy and Bruce. It's a pleasure to talk to you and to your audience. I have no business in the backyard hockey space. I grew up in the medical device, consumer health, and pharma world. Spent my kind of formative years in the world of brand marketing and trade marketing at big companies like Philips and Bayer and Gillette, and then headed into the startup space. But all of the brands that I worked on were sort of at the intersection of healthcare and consumer technology, usually prescription devices. Been very lucky to work on new to the world technologies, the first home defibrillator that was ever launched in the country, adjustable focus eyeglasses, medical air purifiers. So I've always been attracted to kind of groundbreaking technology. And I'm from a family of inventors. So I've sort of always got my ear to the ground looking for opportunities, whether it's in healthcare, med tech, or in this case, the world of outdoor sports equipment. So I'll talk a little bit about the genesis of Yard Rink in a minute, but maybe Dan, you might want to introduce yourself and your background as well.
Sure. So I as well started off in a traditional consumer packaged goods background, working for brands like Minwax and Alka-Seltzer Plus cold medicine. Back in the late 90s, I had the opportunity to meld my professional experience with my passion, which is sports, and went into the sports marketing field. First with a role at Spalding Sports, where I managed the entire basketball division, eventually becoming vice president of marketing. I spent about 12 years at Spalding. Then I branched out on my own, and like Brian, I had the entrepreneurial itch, and I started my own company. Again, in the sporting goods space, I was able to get an exclusive license from the Under Armour brand and produced basketballs and footballs and soccer balls and volleyballs under the Under Armour brand for about 10 years. All in all, I've been in the sporting goods space for over 25 years. Brian and I met long ago and remained friends. And when he started Yard Rink, it's all I heard about from him. And we said eventually we're going to work together again. We worked together 28 years ago, and now we're back. We're back together.
That's awesome. Well, good. Well, let's go ahead and start. And thanks for the introduction, guys. And I'm looking forward to our discussion this morning. So the first question, most of our audience are small emerging brands, challenger brands. So tell us a little bit about how this idea came about. What was your thought process, and what kind of signals did you see to say, you know what, we're going to go for this?
Yeah. So I sort of grew up the son of a corporate nomad. I lived all over the country. I think we had moved 13 or 14 times by the time I graduated from college, and from California to Texas to the Midwest, but had never lived in New England. And so I got a job at Gillette in Massachusetts, and shortly thereafter started a family. And one of the things that was really, really interesting to me driving around the neighborhoods in Essex County, Massachusetts, was every neighborhood had 3 or 4, sometimes even more rinks set up in their backyard, sometimes their front yard. So you drive by these McMansions, these beautiful homes, and you'd see these Frankenstein-looking hockey rinks set up, and I had no idea what this was about. And as my kids got older, they had friends that played hockey, and we got invited to some backyard parties, the equivalent of a pool party, but in the dead of winter. And there's a fire pit going and a couple of cold beers, and you're watching your kids skate around these backyard rinks. My God, it was just enormously fun. And I began to get interested in the market because it just looked like nobody had taken the idea and created something that could be broadly commercialized. And I started to think about the evolution of the sport court market, and the evolution of the backyard swing set market, and the evolution of the breakaway rim expensive basketball hoop market. And people are spending thousands and thousands of dollars to put these safe spaces into their yards so their kids can stay at home, and they don't have to go to the park or to the gym or to the hockey rink. They can stay at home. And I loved the idea that there was an opportunity to get kids off of screens and into their backyard in the dead of winter. So I was really fascinated by it. More research that we did, both primary and secondary, looking at the space, we saw that really there were two buckets of people. There were the people that went to Home Depot or Lowe's and cobbled together these rinks that were really awful looking, but they worked. But they were labors of love. They sometimes would take 3-4 weeks to put up. And then there were these kits that were very expensive, and some of them ended up looking like the Taj Mahal with lights and logos and really beautiful. But what we discovered was there was an opportunity to create a rink that was more accessible, very easy to put up and to take down and to maintain. And so we did some primary market research around that, and we found that the concept was really attractive. More importantly, we found that a huge number of people in cold weather markets had interest in building backyard rinks, but were just terrified. They were too nervous that something was going to go wrong. So that was kind of the genesis of the whole concept.
So, Brian, having grown up in Connecticut and a basketball family, we occasionally did try the backyard rink, and it was horrifying. We made Mr. Potato Head look like Mr. Universe. We used like garden edging and tarps, and one time my father blew out one of our outdoor valves because he left the hose plugged in. So it was pretty much a disaster. So how did you sort through finding a partner to help Yard Rink develop? I mean, going to your website, your products look, fantastic. How did you find someone who could, share that vision, but it wouldn't cost $2.5 million to make?
It's a great question. I mentioned that I'm from a family of entrepreneurs, and I'm a commercialization guy, but I'm not a technical guy. I'm not an engineer. And so I called smartest guy I know. My co-founder, his name is Stephen Curtin. He's a double PhD out of Caltech and MIT. So I brought in the big guns in terms of product development. We had a concept. The core concept was much like the rink that you you built with your father when you were a kid, people really struggle with the liner and the tarp. And so we had this concept that you should get the tarp out of the way, and you build the rink on top of a tarp and pull the tarp up and around the outside. So just like the rink that you skate in inside, you have a perfect interface between the ice and the wall, and the tarp's on the outside, just holding the water inside of that framework. That was concept number one. Concept number two was these plastic kits that had existed are really pretty flimsy. And so we wanted to develop something that was really robust. So we created a wall structure that you could actually fill with water. And when the cold temperatures come, it freezes. So you have this multi-ton wall of ice sitting around this framework. And ultimately, the rink ends up playing like a real hockey rink, like an indoor professional rink with great puck play off the walls. And Stephen and we're now on Rev K. So what is that? 11 versions of this thing. So we've done an awful lot of bench testing, an awful lot of in-market testing in rinks in the wild to demonstrate that we could build something cost effectively that held up through all kinds of difficult winter conditions, that was easy to set up and easy to take down. Most importantly, played very well. So it's been the better part of 8 years, Bruce, of making sure that we got optimized before we really launched last season. We're now in our second season.
So you already unearthed the massive design flaw in Montgomery Backyard Rink circa 1969. Pulling the tarp up over the edging eliminates the leaks that we always had. So
yes,
yeah,
that's the thing. We talk to these. It's a fascinating community. The backyard rink people. You can go on Facebook, and there are tens of thousands of people commiserating and looking for advice. And one of the things that we like to show, we throw a snowblower up into our rink and snowblow right around the edges, because that just can't happen with other technologies. And people are like, whoa, okay, we get it. And so that it's something that simple. And it's no different than the world of CPG. You just need a breakthrough idea, and then to relentlessly pursue it is where the hard work happens.
yeah.
So the concept was born quickly. It was the execution of it that's takes a lot of time and effort.
Absolutely.
Tracy?
Absolutely. So tell us a little bit about the consumer, research that you did, and what you found that said, hey, this is a great idea, and we want to move forward. And then what kind of revisions and updates did you make as you learned more?
Yeah, growing up as a kind of classically trained marketer at companies like Procter and Gamble and Gillette, it's one thing to have an idea. It's quite another to put it in front of consumers and to test it. And as you both know, primary market research is really difficult, right? When you're asking for things that people have to imagine,
Sure.
right? The Henry Ford story, give me a faster horse. Who can envision a car with four wheels, right? Who could envision this concept? And so you always have to be very careful. But we ran a quantitative powered study with about 320 or so consumers in the 25 most hockey rabid states and all of the provinces in Canada. And we asked them fundamental questions about, what do you know about backyard hockey? What's your experience with it? Tell me about what your knowledge of the competitive space is. What would you be interested in? And then challenging them with the concept of Yard Rink and saying, what do you think of this? What would you optimize? What does the price point seem like? We ended up with a very robust professional study. We did it in-house, and it was a framework for us. And since we've started our in-market testing, we've had many dozens, maybe 100 of products out there that we're getting feedback on before launch. And every single year we do follow-up consumer market research among our owners. So everything that we do is with an ear to the consumers, because first of all, I'm not a hockey guy. Dan's got more hockey experience than I do. So I'm humble enough to know that you have to listen in order to be able to provide something that actually makes sense. Just because I think it's a good idea doesn't mean that they do. So we've been pretty rigorous around our consumer market research. And we'll do it again this year. Within the next 4 to 6 weeks, we'll send out to this year's consumers and prior year's consumers and say, hey, what went well, what didn't go well, what feedback do you have? And it's, I think, really a huge competitive advantage of ours in the market. It's clear that others might not be listening the way we are.
That's
a great
incredible.
move, because that's a great move, because we hear a lot of stories where people just want to wing it. They either think they don't have time, or they think that every piece of research costs, $500,000 and it'll take 6 months. We have a guest coming on in a couple of weeks that's going to debunk a lot of that. So Dan, can you tell us a little bit about some of the strategic partnerships or relationships that, you've been able to bring to the table and help Yard Rink? I mean, given all your time spent in sports, I guess no one has a Rolodex anymore, but you have a pretty chubby phone, I'd imagine.
Yeah, I think I do. Every stop of the way on my sports marketing career, licensing has played a really major role, whether it be with the NBA when I was with Spalding, or, going out on my own and getting a license from Under Armour, or even doing player endorsements with Kobe Bryant or Steph Curry. Licensing has always played a major role in strategic marketing. And Brian and I and his co-founder Steven very early on began talking about the importance of a quality license. And we listed in rank order what the probably most important licenses would be. And coming out on top was the NHL. Obviously, the NHL provides the good housekeeping seal of approval. It really was the pinnacle of what we thought could be the most meaningful license. And so that was the initial priority when I came on board to head up business development for Yard Rink, is to go after the NHL. And yeah, I used my network to get to the right people very quickly. And honestly, the way Brian described the product and the benefits that Yard Rink has, it was a very smooth conversation. And in fact, the NHL indicated they had not been contacted by any of our competitors before that. And that's where I think Brian and my background really helps. We look at things from a traditional consumer products behavioral aspect, and we look at areas where maybe our competitors are not focusing on. And so we quickly were able to get an agreement in place with the NHL. Took a little while to get through the legalese and the attorneys, but we did secure the license in the late summer of 2023. And what it really allows us to do, what we decided to do, is give the consumer the ability to customize their rink with any one of 32 current NHL teams and 8 vintage teams, including the Hartford Whalers, Bruce, or the Minnesota North Stars, or
the Hartford Failures, as they were known when I was growing up.
Yeah.
But that really has been a popular option. Is we send decals with every Yard Rink that we send out, NHL decals and then team customized decals.
That's sweet.
Yeah, and consumers really like it, and we've had 22 different teams requested this past season. The NHL license also offers the opportunity to activate behind their events and their programs. So, for instance, their outdoor classic games, their stadium series, we have the ability to set up a Yard Rink, for instance, and interact with consumers. The NHL All-Star Game has an expo that we're able to set up a booth and interact with consumers. The NHL has an NHL Street program for the summertime, which we're able to have conversations about getting involved with. So there's a lot of different areas when you have a license with an organization as diverse as the NHL, where we can activate behind. Plus, I mean, quite frankly, our two main markets, the US and Canada, the NHL is equally relevant in both of those regions. And so the license really makes a lot of sense for a number of different reasons.
So Dan, when the NHL does the outdoor classic, have you and Brian reviewed your contract language? Are they infringing on Yard Rink's patents playing a game like that outside?
We have taken a look at that, and
Probably don't want to bring that up right now, but I was just wondering.
we think they're in the clear.
I mean, it's such a cool idea because when you think back to all the men and women playing high school, college hockey, and then the NHL guys, all those people must have memories of like either the yard rink or going to the pond. My crazy hockey friends growing up, I mean, they all had the 4 a.m. practices because even though it was Connecticut, the rink time was still precious. I mean, it is a cult. We're a bit of a lacrosse family, which is similar. You know, the mothers are all insane, but they love it. And it doesn't exist without the hockey moms for sure. TP, you want to press on?
Yeah, I just wanted to say one thing. I applaud you guys for being, consumer research based. So like Bruce said, we see a lot of brands, talk to a lot of brands where, they love their brand. It's their baby. We call it My Baby's Beautiful. I sell, a bunch of this at my local farmer's market. All my family loves it. So I love that you have taken a, consumer research based approach to this product. So I just wanted to point that out again, to our audience, because I think that's a critical piece. So another critical piece is just how do you tell us a little bit about how you drive, awareness, of the Yard Rink brand to your consumers. Tell us maybe a little bit about what has worked and maybe something that hasn't.
Yeah, from a positioning standpoint, once Dan secured the NHL license, that became kind of the cornerstone of our marketing positioning. We talk about the halo of credibility it provides to us and the point of separation that it gives us. So it's become, in some regards, the anchor of our messaging, along with our core concept of the best design leads to the best playability. So we really try to get to that unique selling proposition of how this product is differentiated versus others. And at the same time, we talk about the emotional connection, sort of the end-to-end benefits, if you will, of being able to get your kids outside in the winter time, being able to be the home that gathers friends and family, and making sure that messaging and positioning comes through. Most importantly, that was also a big part of our consumer market research. And part of the reason why the NHL deal happened is, we have strategic alignment. But once that messaging was figured out, we really took a test to invest approach across a wide swath, frankly, of media vehicles, from digital to PR and social. We tested remnant print advertising this year in the Wall Street Journal and the USA Today and in hockey heavy markets. We've done co-marketing promotions with a high-end trampoline, who's also competing for the backyard space in the other months, the summer months. We've really tried a wide array of marketing concepts, including some affiliates, which Dan can talk about in a moment. And the idea is always to get a return on advertising spend threshold. That if we can meet a certain threshold that is important to us with a vehicle, we pour money into that engine, right? And the ones that don't perform well, we tie off and let go away. So I would say the best workhorse for us has been digital marketing, both pay-per-click, remarketing. We take a funnel approach. We are a direct sale e-commerce machine. So we are always trying to put cost-effective leads into the top of the funnel and harvest them through remarketing and some customer relationship management programs, and trying to bring those leads down the funnel. And digital marketing, Google, MSN, Bing, Facebook, not yet TikTok, although we're trying. So each one of them have their own formula. I've been playing in the digital marketing game since its infancy, and it's very dynamic. So you're always having to, as I say, test to invest and figure out what dials to turn up and turn down. I'd say the least successful of all of our programs, thankfully there's only been a couple of them, we make decisions rather quickly, right? We like to say, well, if we're going to fail, we'll fail fast and fail small.
Love it.
And so those programs, we we put a quick metric on, and if they don't work, we, see if there's something that we did wrong, if there's a messaging tweak or a reach or frequency number that needs to be tested again. But if not, we move on. And we've had one or two of those, and we'll have more. But we learn a lot from these failures. Next year, we've got a ton more to test. We've got database marketing, and we've got remnant TV that we're going to look at, direct mail that we're going to look at, some interesting potential retail distribution that we're looking into. So I used to be good friends with a guy who headed up the marketing at Bose, and Dr. Bose used to say to him, "If you're not testing, you're failing." And I believe that's the case with us. If we're not testing the right mix of messages and media vehicles, then we're not ever going to find the most efficient mix.
And we also,
That's great.
unlike our competition, we're not afraid to try different ideas. For instance, on the grassroots side, we went to skating rinks, and we set up a yard rink outside in the parking lot, or in one case in the lobby of a skating complex, just so the consumers coming in can put their eyes on a yard rink and have somebody to talk to and answer questions and say, "What is that? Oh, that's a backyard rink. Oh, wow. Tell me about it." And so we weren't afraid to test things like that, where we take a few hours out of our time, quickly set up and tear down, and even just the process of seeing the yard rink constructed and then deconstructed brings eyeballs and brings questions and brings conversation. And we really appreciate that interaction with the consumers.
I mean, all that stuff is so smart, because as Brian said right up front, this is one of those things that if you don't see it, it's kind of hard to imagine, right?
Yeah.
And it also sounds like complete baloney that this is going to be simple to assemble. So if you show, a knucklehead like me and two buddies being able to put it together in a reasonable amount of time without needing, like, the Army Corps of Engineers, that just further cements that it truly is, user friendly. So Dan, you kind of let the genie out of the bottle here. So let's keep pressing. So as you and Brian are growing the business here, you've spoken about how you're selling it online, so you can go a little deeper there. But what are you looking for in terms of, other distribution outlets? If you go to brick and mortar retail, what are you kind of looking for? I mean, you have an item, certainly sexy, high quality, but a juicy price point, right? And it's not something you can come put in my mailbox. Okay. So you've got some other things you need to maneuver around, but how are you thinking through, hey, this could be a partner for retail distribution, or this could be a distributor in the Pacific Northwest? How are you thinking about that?
Yeah. I mean, Brian said it, we really believe in the test to invest equation. And because we both come out of kind of the traditional consumer packaged goods, we're kind of wedded to the idea that retail is a legitimate distribution option. And so we wanted to try to find a retailer who would allow us to test quietly, but also was the right partner. And so we approached a sporting goods retailer in the upper Midwest called Shields. They're ideally located for a backyard rink. Their headquarters is in Fargo, North Dakota. Most of their stores are in the Dakotas and Wisconsin and Minnesota, so perfect for backyard rinks. And we partnered up with them to do a 5-store test, and they actually brought inventory in. Brian and I built and developed with a partner manufacturer just a badass end cap display with a video, with all the information you would need about the yard rink, takeaway pamphlets. And then we trained all of the associates within the hockey departments so that they had all the Q&A. They were totally informed about the benefits of the yard rink system. And we're in the first year of that test right now. And again, ideally located geographically, small retail that we could test to invest, but test quietly so that if we fail fast, and we take our lessons learned. But this was a very unique opportunity. Again, we were the first backyard rink to try it.
That's awesome. I love that. I love what you talk about, fail fast. We call it test and learn. So I just love that approach.
So one other question just here on distribution and selling channels. Can you guys speak to whether you've you're in, let's just say it, the Amazon factor. Have you guys had a good experience, or is that something you're going to focus on more? And again, I love your test to invest. Is that a cornerstone, or is that something you're kind of easing your way into?
Yeah, in terms of Amazon specifically, I've had knockout success and I've had dismal failure with online channel partners in general, usually around channel conflict and violation of MAP pricing, where the broader the distribution and the more levels of distribution, if you've got a master distributor that's then going to sell to other mom and pop stores that have an online presence, that decide that they're not going to stick with your promotional pricing strategy and promote during this period and not promote during that period and maintain the pricing, then you end up competing with yourself and competing with your own channels. So I'm always very sensitive to that fact, where but at the same time, you can't go it alone, right? This is it's an expensive product. Our starter unit costs $2,700. Our standard costs $3,700, and you really need to get points of viability and credibility. So I'll give you an example. Dan found an affiliate in the upper Midwest. All he does all day long is call on independent hockey specialty shops. And this guy has done an amazing job talking to those shop owners, putting brochures in there and setting up little affiliate programs where they get a percentage of sales for somebody that uses their coupon code and buys through yardrink.com. Pretty cool little system. Dan and I could never do it. We don't have the credibility with store owners like that, and they're his drinking buddies, right? So he goes in and gets their buy-in. They give us point of purchase awareness in a topical area where people are talking about sticks and pucks and pads, and then they're picking up their brochure with a custom coupon code and buying directly from Yard Rink. So it's another one of these things, I think, that Dan has said, we're willing to try something that's unique. And if we didn't test that, we wouldn't have had some incremental sales that we found this year. So we're very open-minded about the channel strategy, but we both have a collective huge amount of years, so we've seen the potholes, and we know what to look out for, and we're very, very careful about the degradation of our brand through any sort of promotion or pricing strategy that's not consistent with a premium brand.
Well, and you guys just hit on one of the things Tracy and I talk about all the time with these emerging brands or founder-led businesses. You just have to keep control of your pricing. If you end up with, 40 one-offs, to your point, Brian, suddenly there's something online and you're like, how are they selling at that price? That's lower than us. And, if you're in retailers, suddenly the retailers see that and your phone explodes. It's like, what are you doing? And the answer is, I have no idea. It's turned into the wild, wild west. Tracy, you want to press to the next topic?
Absolutely. So, a lot of times on our podcast, people want to listen and talk about investors. So tell us a little bit about, are you looking for investment, and if you are, what kind of investor are you looking for? Somebody that just can write a check, or somebody that's going to be a little bit more value added?
Are you offering, Tracy?
No, I am not, but thank you.
Yeah, so this has been, Yard Rink has been entirely funded from the bank of Brian and Stephen to this point. And that said, last season was sort of a point of proof of viability. This season has proven demonstrably that this business can scale. We had phenomenal growth from last year to this year, really hockey stick, pardon the pun, growth. And so next year, we are looking to raise capital. We talk about the fact that running Yard Rink is like running an amusement park in New England, right? You get all of your revenue in this really short, compressed period of time. In our case, it's Thanksgiving to Christmas is 80% of our sales. Yet you have to build all of your inventory and supply chain and gear up all of your marketing assets across the other months. And so cash management at a company like this is always going to be a challenge. And in order to be able to buffer that cash variability, we are looking for strategic investors. And by strategic, I say people that it's smart money, people within the hockey industry or the hockey affiliated type of brands, people that understand our consumers, people that have been around our type of startup with high price points and a complicated supply chain. So, I think there's a fair number of people that could just write checks. We're really looking for people that can add value to the equation and bring some credibility, added credibility to the Yard Rink brand name. You don't see a lot of sports oriented IPOs, but you do see some roll ups. And so there has been a fair amount of consolidation. We're not at that stage yet. So we're really now at the growth capital stage. We're not a private equity play yet. So we're really looking for more either family office or individual smart money who can add the value that I just described.
Awesome.
Interesting.
I love it.
Interesting. Yeah, I would imagine there's probably some retired NHL guys who might find this very interesting, and then they could be brand ambassadors. Look at Dan; his mind's already turning. He's like, "Oh yeah,
Yeah.
There are a few who are now in my cell phone that I it's unbelievable to me that I have these names in my cell phone. So yeah, those are some of the type of people we're talking about, Bruce.
Well,
I think Wayne Gretzky should be at the top of the list, but that's just me.
Yeah, Tracy from Florida just named his only hockey player.
That's exactly right.
All right, Tracy, I think we're ready for the big finish.
Well, first of all, Brian and Dan, tell our audience how they can get a hold of you.
Yeah, just the easiest way is just go to yardrink.com and our customer care team can put people directly in contact with us. We're always open for contact. I'll give my personal business email to it's bp@yardrink.com if people want to reach out. We're always open for conversations and new ideas.
And I'm D Touhey at yardrink.com, and again open to hearing from consumers.
All right.
It's awesome. Well, good. Well, again, Brian, Dan, thanks so much for joining us today. And thank you, audience. Look for this posting here in a couple of weeks. And please follow us on our iTunes channel, Spotify, anywhere where you listen to podcasts. We also have a YouTube channel as well as on LinkedIn. So please follow us. We've got some other great content coming up this year. But most of all, Brian and Dan, thank you so much for joining us. It was very insightful and great to talk to you guys.
Thanks, you guys. Good luck out there, everybody. Good luck
you.
out there.